All right, and then I'm going to share my screen. And then we're going to jump in. Derek, if you have your ceramic notebook handy, can you get that out, please? Thank you, thank you. Any notebook is fine then, just so you can do some sketching based off the PowerPoint. Okay, so just as a quick reminder, what we did yesterday is we learned about the sculptural forms of Toshiko Takaezu, her beautiful enclosed forms. Most of them were not functional. And so remember, when something is not functional, we don't really call it a vessel. What do we call it? A sculpture, right? So, and that could be one of your options that you make for this project. It could simply be this interesting sculpture that has all of the horsehair designs on it. But there are other things that you might want to do. So also yesterday, most of us, I know not everybody, but we scored, slipped and melded our two porcelain bowls together and began scraping and shaping the form. Now I know not everybody got to that step. You'll have time to do that today. If you're behind, if you haven't made one of your bowls, or if you haven't, if they're not in the right stage, we'll be able to have some time to take care of all of that today. So the goals for today are to look at some different forms that could inspire you and add features that are going to make your finished vessel functional in some way. We're going to score, slip, and meld all those additional features to the form, including a foot. And then we're going to cut an exit hole somewhere in the form so the air can, excuse me, can escape. This happened yesterday in your class too. I swallowed some lint from my mask. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Whew, all right. Let's pause and look at these vases for a moment while I drink some water. Oh my goodness, that is terrible. You know what might help if I wear my microphone? You know what would also help is if my microphone was charged and worked. Dang it. All right. I'm going to try to talk more softly so it's not so hard on my throat. Okay, so one of the options that you could make for this project is a narrow-necked vase. And remember, we want it to be kind of a narrow neck so it has a broad shoulder. And why do we want it to have a broad shoulder? Exactly, it makes a better surface for throwing the horsehair so it shows up better. So I'll be showing you today one way that you could make a narrow neck fairly easily that could be attached to your vessel. Another thing you could make is what's called a gargolette. It's a French word. I don't literally know what it means in French. Anybody take French and can translate that for me? I assume that it means something like watering pot because that's what it is. It's a watering pot. So you put water in one side, there's a handle in the center, and then you pour the water out on the second side. So that's actually what I think I'm going to try and make today in my demo because I think it's a really interesting shape and I could use a watering pot at my house. Another option is you could make a jug, and a jug would be characterized as something that has a narrow neck for a cork and then a handle so you can pick it up and pour from it. Or a bottle, which would have a narrow neck, also could accept a cork. And I have corks that you can borrow. And so either of those would be great options. They're really kind of the same thing. The only difference is the jug has a handle. Another option, you can be sketching as I do this, by the way, is like planning out your ideas. Sorry, I should have said that earlier. Another option would be to take that enclosed form that you have and cut off a lid and turn it into a lidded jar. And as long as you cut the lid in such a way that the lid does not fall in or shift around, you would have to cut it at a 45-degree angle all the way around. You could turn your object into a lidded jar. Now, if you do this, when you cut that lid off, you're going to have some additional melding to do on the inside because we haven't been able to access the inside. But once we see the inside, if you cut a lid off, you'll have to go inside there and do a lot of smoothing and fixing so that inside is as strong and looks as good as the outside. And then the final option that I could think of, maybe you'll come up with an additional option of what you could make, but a final option that I thought was to just work in a way similar to Toshiko and create something that's purely an interesting object, a sculptural object. I remember yesterday I showed, or I mentioned anyway, how to make it be a rattle by taking a little porcelain, wrapping it in some paper towel, and throwing it inside before you attach the two pieces together. So it's sealed off inside. As it fires, the little bead will harden also inside the form. And after the paper towel burns away, it'll rattle around inside. So that's an option if you want to do that. Now, another thing you need to consider is what's going to stabilize this. It does need a foot. So with your additional porcelain, you're going to have to make some kind of foot that's going to elevate your pot, stabilize the pot so it doesn't roll around. It could be a simple foot ring. It could be one of these other options that you see here. Kind of depends on how much clay you have left, especially for the people at home. Oh, so sorry about the coughing. So here are your goals for today. First, if you haven't done it yet, you're going to attach your two bowls together, scoring, slipping, and melding. You're going to scrape and shape the form to refine it and eliminate that seam where the two pieces came together. You're going to score, slip, and meld a foot to elevate and stabilize the form. You're going to consider what is this vessel going to be? What do you need to add to give it some sort of function? Even on Toshiko's work, she had that little nub at the top that just gave you a little focal point up at the top. What could you add, even if it's not going to be functional, to really make it look truly complete and interesting and drawing our eye into that form? Then, once everything is constructed, I'm going to show you a few tricks and things you could add today. But once everything is constructed, we want to do a lot of smoothing. So everything, ideally, by the end of today, everything will be constructed, everything will be smoothed, and then you'll take a photo of that. That's your assignment for today. And then we're going to loosely bag it for tomorrow, because tomorrow we want it to be kind of the dry side of leather hard, so we can start polishing, doing that burnishing technique to really shine it up before it gets bisque fired. So I will leave this up on the screen for people who are here in class. People who are at home, this will be in a video that I'll post in a little bit. So if you need a reminder of what to do first, second, third, you'll have it. I do want to show you a few little tricks that you can use to make some of the other features. Cameron, would you flip on the lights now, please, so I can do the demo? All right, so I am going to, that's perfect, that's perfect. So people who are in the back, you 7, can you come gather around up here so you can see a little bit better? And everybody else, hopefully you'll kind of be able to see okay from where you are. Let's keep that on for now. All right, so I'm going to demo from up here. If you can't really see from where you are, just come stand, be socially distanced as best you can. I'm going to end the show. Stop sharing. Pin myself. There we go. Okay. Oops. There we go. Okay. So here's as far as I got yesterday. This morning when I came in, I did a lot more scraping and shaping. So my smoothing and shaping is close to being done. Okay. So I know that most of you still have a lot more scraping to do. And just remember that would be done with your steel scraper if you're here. If you're at home, you would use a plastic card. So what I did, actually, you could put this on your slip container. And you know what? That's too wobbly. That makes me nervous. So just set it on your tabletop and just do a little gentle scraping and shaping with the goal, your primary goal, is to just eliminate that seam where you added that extra coil of clay. So that's going to be the main point of scraping and shaping. Then for my foot, I think I'm just going to do a foot ring. So I actually made this already out of porcelain. I just rolled a coil of clay, slipped and scored the end of it. And now I'm going to place that at the bottom of my form. Now I don't want to set this on its side because it would dent on that side. So I'm going to set it on my towel. I have my porcelain slip standing by. And because, I'm going to say this again, I'm going to say it a lot, because horsehair firing, this outdoor firing that we're going to do with this, is a really violent process, everything has to be scored and slipped incredibly well. So there's no dainty little scoring here. There's no, you know, just sticking it on because the clay seems sticky. It'll seem like it'll stay together. It won't. It won't in that firing process. So you got to be real diligent about doing some intense scoring and slipping. So all those very tiny little porcelain particles can stay together. So I just scored and slipped this. I just scored and slipped where it joins here. I'm going to press it together. I want to make sure that it's actually in the center. I could actually put this upside down in my bowl. Oh, brilliant. And now, ideally, I want to try and meld this, but I think I left my ring. I think I let it dry out a little bit too much. So I'm going to try to meld the inside, see if I can't bring some of that clay downward. It's moving a little bit. I might just leave the outside to be distinct, and I might not meld that part of it, just so I can see that nice crisp ring. Okay, so I just did some melding in the inside there, and then I would do some smoothing out here so that the foot looks nice, but has this nice separation. And there are other kinds of feet that you can do. You can make little dice kind of shapes. You can make spikes. You can make pebbles, whatever you feel like is going to look good with your form. But a foot ring, like I just did here, is kind of the classic foot. I also did this is a really fat foot ring. Yours would not have to be this fat. So there's more smoothing that I'll have to do there. I'm just going to flip this over so you can get that visual. Okay, yeah, a lot more smoothing I have to do there, but that'll come later. Okay, so now I actually made a little tiny neck for my pot already. So if this was going to be a vase, maybe that would end up being the neck of my vase, or if I'm going to do the gargolette, it would be attached more on the side there. I'll show you how I made that. I just took a wooden spoon, and then I rolled a coil of porcelain. And I didn't do any scoring or slipping. All that I did was I wrapped that coil around the handle of my wooden spoon, right? Okay. And then I just put it on the tabletop and I blended downward. So the stick on the inside is helping keep the opening clear. And then the strong melding that I'm doing on the outside is what is truly bonding all the pieces together. So then I kind of squeezed it in the very, very center to make it more narrow in that middle bit. And then I kind of left the lip really organic. I don't know that I love that organic look. I might actually trim that and make it more level. But I kind of like this one. I like that organic lip. So that might be the opening that I end up putting on top of or to the side of my gargolette. Now, what do I have to make sure that I remember to do before I attach this? Cut a hole, right? Yeah, so I have some of these knife tools. People at home, you can use the end of your fork. You can use the plastic knife that I gave you. I kind of want to, I kind of like it on top too. What do you guys think? Should I do the gargolette? Top? You like the top? Yeah, I kind of do too. Maybe I'll end up changing it in a little bit. But for now, I'll make it into a vase. Okay, so then really, really important that I score heavily around that opening. I'm going to score heavily. See how the hole at the bottom here is just the size of the stick? I might take my knife and just open that up a little bit, kind of cut it open, because it's kind of thick there anyway. Score and slip heavily all the way around. And then I would need to meld. I don't want to see that was an extra piece of clay that I added on. You could also just begin coiling right off of your vessel. That's fine too. You know how to do that. You know how to add coils to an object. I just wanted to show you a new technique, how you could use a wooden spoon to help. So now this is actually caving in the top part of my pot a little bit. So I'm going to be a little bit gentle with my melding for now. And then I'll come back and meld that more securely when it's a little bit stronger. Yeah, does it kind of look like an apple a little bit right now, the stem? Okay, so then if I wanted to turn this into a jug, or if it's going to be a gargolet and it's going to have a handle to it, remember one way that you know how to make handles is by pulling a handle. You could take a little bit of your extra clay, make it into an ice cream cone shape, hang onto the fat part, get your hand wet and pull on that clay to stretch out and make your handle. You can also make your handle in other ways too, though. The gargolettes that you saw on the screen, the handle was actually a loop. So you could make another coil of clay and make a loop. If I was going to make this by hand, this is kind of thin. The proportion is not right. It's too skinny. But I could also make it by coiling it and then score and slip and wrap an extra coil of clay around the connection points and meld. Okay. The key, the number one thing to take away today, score, slip, and meld like crazy as best you can so that things are really, really strong so it can withstand that firing process outside. So people who are at home, if you have any questions, message me, and I would be happy to help you out. I'm not going to individually meet with you today. And so you guys can sign off. We're at home. People who are here, if you're interested, I'm going to call everybody up here who might be interested in making the extra features on the wheel to come up for a quick little 2-minute demo on how you could throw a neck or throw an opening for your project. So come on up here if you might be interested in throwing on the wheel with porcelain.
There's a lot of moving.
You do. Yeah, if you want to focus on that, that's fine. All right, I'm going to hang up. Actually, I'm going to let you guys get to work, and I'll call a short demo in maybe about 20 minutes when it's more relevant to folks.
I got my wisdom teeth out, so I've been off for a little bit.
Right. What's the last step that you did on this project?
I made the 3 things out of stone, porcelain.
Okay, so you haven't done anything with porcelain. Okay, all right. So then let's have that be your first thing. Let's have you make your slip. There's a container right here. Take just the porcelain thing. Put it in here. If you have to break it to fit it in there, that's fine. And then add just enough water so that your object is only half covered. And then just let that sit. Then come over here and have porcelain measured out into spheres that are already the right size, wedged and everything. So flatten it and then run it through the slab roller. And then when you get to that point, I'll kind of show you what to do from there. Okay. Uh-oh. Are they dry?
What? Oh, that's dry?
Oh, well, these are kind of dry. Yeah, or maybe if it's 2 different bowls, then they might not have been the right circumference for each other. Okay, so I think this is your better bowl. Let's wrap this in wet paper towel and bag it up tightly. And then let's work on maybe either, honestly, it might be better to just make a new bowl using the same plastic bowl that this was made from. Do you still have that, or do you know if you saw it? Okay. Oh, I'm recording.